Shabbat Shalom, Zion. Shabbat Shalom to my mishpaka, to my family worldwide, to all 12 tribes of Yasharal, to Yisharun, to all 12 tribes, to the lion, the big brother, Yahudah, to the ox who with his horns hath pushed around all nations, the ox, the younger brother, Ephraim, to the stranger, Agur, who has joined himself to us, who has engrafted into us, whereby who has thrown down his or her idols, has forsaken the lies of his or her fathers, and has come out of the nations, has come out from amongst dogs, and has come out from amongst swine, and has enjoined yourself with the Yahid, with the only begotten Son of Yahuwah, Yasharal, whom the covenants and promises and inheritance were given to alone, and whereby now you too are privy to the same covenants and promise and inheritance that were given to Yasharal and to Yasharal alone. Shabbat Shalom to you worldwide. I realize that it is still the Shabbat for some of you, and for some of you the sun has set, and so it is no longer the Shabbat. So to you I say Shavuot Tov. Have a good week. I pray that whether you are currently enjoying the Shabbat, or if the Shabbat has indeed ended, that this Yom has brought healing and restoration and shalom to your entire being. That on this Yom, even on this Yom, that you were wrapped up in the arms of Abinu, that he brought you near to his bosom, and that he gave you just an inkling, just a sample, a foreshadowing of the eternal Shabbat that we long to enter into, and in which the weekly Shabbat is a representation and a foreshadowing of that eternal Shabbat that we all long to enter into. Shalom, shalom, my family. Shalom, mishpaka. My mishpaka, I won't make this video too long, but I had to come on and issue another warning. Another warning for you, my mishpaka, and that warning is to beware, Zion, beware of overzealousness. Beware of being overzealous. Now, this warning is mainly for those who are just coming into truth, just coming into this truth. Because I know now your eyes are being opened, and the lies are being exposed, and you're full of zeal right now. You're full of zeal for the truth and the knowledge that you are being exposed to literally on a daily basis. It could perhaps even be a warning for those who have been walking in truth for a while. But the intent of this warning and this video is to warn those who are literal babes, who are just coming into this knowledge, who are just coming into truth, and are full of zeal for it, such that you want to share it with everybody. You want to shout it from the rooftops. You have this zeal and this false, I should say, tikva, or expectation that perhaps, you can save everybody. And that if only they could just hear, maybe your family members, your friends, or close associates, or whomever it may be, but that if only they could just hear the truth, if only that if only the truth could just be presented to them, that they will in turn receive it in the same way that you did. That same proverbial light bulb that went off in your head will go off in theirs as well. Doesn't work that way, Zion. It doesn't work that way. Yahuwah is intentional. He is not random. You see, he knows who his sheep are. He knows who his sheep are, and indeed his sheep know who he is, because his sheep hears his voice, and another voice they will not follow. And so not all are his sheep, and not all are going to receive truth. As you walk in this truth, you will understand that, again, he is intentional. He is not random. And we have to wait on him. We have to depend on him to point out who his sheep are. And we have to wait on him to send us to them. Now, if you're a proclaimer, you proclaim to the four winds. You proclaim to the four winds of the Eretz, and where it lays, and who it's for, it is for. And if those who have eyes to see and ears to see hear it, they will receive it. If those who do not have eyes to see and ears to hear, they won't receive it. But that's not our concern. We have a mandate to proclaim to the four winds, and who receives, receives, and who does not, does not. So what's the purpose of this warning, Zion? What's the purpose of this warning with respect to being overzealous? Overzealous. Let me preface that with something, Zion. Let me preface. Again, I don't want to make this video too long, but let me preface that with something. And it is a reminder to you that Yahusha told us, he warned us, for those who are true, and the operative word is true, for those of us who are true followers of Hamashiach, in other words, those of us who obey Torah in Ruach and in truth, and who have the witness of Hamashiach. Hamashiach warned us that all men were going to hate us, that all nations were going to hate us, that we were going to be hated by all men. He warned us that if others hate us, that don't think that it's something strange, because they hated him first. They hated him first. It reads here in Matif Yahu, the 10th chapter, the 22nd verse, and ye shall be hated of all men for my name's sake. But he that endureth unto the end shall be delivered, shall be saved. In Yahuchanan, John, the 15th chapter, the 18th through the 20th verse, we read here, if the world hates you, you know that it hated me before it hated you. If you were of the world would love its own. But because you are not of the world, but I chose you out of the world, for that reason the world hates you. Remember the word that I said to you, a servant is not greater than his master. If they persecuted me, they shall persecute you too. If they have guarded my word, they would guard yours too. They would guard yours too. Zion, again, if you are walking the narrow way, if you are guarding the Torah, and if you have the witness of Yahusha Hamashiach, you are going to be hated by all men. Why? Because it is going to put you in direct opposition with all men. With all men. You see, there is only a few that are guarding Torah in Ruach and in truth, and who have the witness of Yahusha Hamashiach. And so if one is walking in this path, Zion, this is going to put us in direct opposition with all men, with all nations, tongues, and tribes, with all governments of the Eretz. It is going to put us in direct opposition with everyone. It is going to put us in direct opposition with family, with brothers, with sisters, with children, with grandchildren, with cousins, with close associates. It is going to put us in direct opposition with all men. With all men. Now, we may not consider them our enemies, but they are going to consider us their enemies. Because when the word of Yah is proclaimed, it cuts. It cuts out hearts. It cuts in two. It cuts asunder. It cuts bone and marrow. It cuts proverbial heads off. It cuts. And as it cuts, it creates anger, dissension, and resentment, and jealousies, and bitter envies, and it causes us to look at us with an evil eye. With an evil eye. And because we are hated by all men, Zion, we then now have to walk circumspect. We have to be careful of what we say. We have to be careful of what we do. We have to be careful of our actions before all men, because they are looking for anything, for any evidence of falsehood to attach it to us to prove that what it is, that what we believe and what we speak is false. They're looking, we are being viewed under a microscope. We are being combed with a fine-tooth comb. Every area of our lives is being inspected so that they can find some fault in us to prove that what it is that Yahuwah speaks through us is indeed false, so that we can be discredited and proven to be false. And proven to be false. Ignorantly, I might say, because they don't understand that it's not us that they're trying to discredit, but rather Yahuwah. But rather Yahuwah. Nevertheless, we are the enemies of all men. All men, the word declares, will hate those true followers of the Hamashiach. All men will hate us. Name any religion. Again, if you're Zion listening to this, you know that the way has nothing to do with religion. The way is a way of life, is a way of governing ourselves in accordance with the instructions of our Bino, Yahuwah. So it is not religion, it is a way. So the way has nothing to do with religion. Nevertheless, name a way, name a religion, any religion in the world that is in direct opposition of all men. That is in direct opposition of all men. You won't find one. You won't find one, Zion. You won't find one. In fact, even Christians are enemies to us. Even Christians are our enemies. A few days ago, actually a week or so ago, I was Beirut to meet a brother who lives in Malaysia. He is a descendant of Ephraim. He is of the northern, a descendant of the northern 10 tribes. A descendant of Ephraim. I was barakah to meet this brother. This brother is currently living in Malaysia, where he has gained religious asylum from Pakistan, where he is originally from. And he related to me that when he arrived to Pakistan, arrived to Malaysia rather, that there was no shortage of Christian churches or Christians that came to him and offered him assistance, offered him food and groceries and a place to stay if he would offer his allegiance to that particular church or denomination. Of course, he declined because he is a Torah follower. He is a Torah follower. And so he related to me furthermore how while there in Malaysia, and this is still ongoing, that he began to teach Torah. That he began to teach Torah. And in teaching Torah, some turned away from Christianity and some turned to the way. Some that turned to the way, it's, as the parable of the sower spoken by Yahushua. Some didn't last long, because the word that with some of them was thrown by the wayside. And with some of them, it was thrown on shallow ground. It came up and the sun burned it. And the wayside, and the birds came down and ate it. The demons came down and immediately plucked it away. And then there were some of them, the majority of them, that the word, the seed, was thrown amongst thorns, where the cares of this world then came and choked the word out. This was the case with most of them, because with them, when they turned to the way, you see, they could no longer get groceries, they could no longer get food, and they could no longer get a place to stay, because the churches then refused to provide assistance for them if they did not accept Christianity. If they did not accept Christianity. So some of them left, and now he is pretty much standing alone. He is pretty much standing alone, depending on donations from his mispaka across the Arets to send to him to provide groceries and a place to stay for him until he receives a visa and he can leave there and move to the United States or Australia or some other area where there is no shortage of assemblies who have given him invitation to come to live with them. Nevertheless, he related to me that in the process of teaching Torah and turning some from the false way of Christianity to the way, that some of the pastors there then united together and came armed. I did say armed. They came armed to his house to do him harm, and these are Christian pastors, because they thought that he was starting up some new religion and he was taking their membership. Suffice to say, Yahuwah delivered him from their hands. It was his hand that delivered him, because some of them were literally armed with weapons, guns, to come to do him harm. One of them even threatened to do him harm. One of them uttered the words that he is a man of few words. He prefers to allow his weapon to talk. Nevertheless, Yahuwah delivered him from their hands, and he is still being sustained without their help, standing on the commandments of Yah. And he still has a place to stay, and he still has food on his table for his family. Another brother contacted me a couple of days ago from Nigeria, who related to me that the Christians there are persecuting him because he is walking and talking contrary to their way. Nevertheless, Zion, we are hated by all men. If you walk the true way, that is to keep the Torah of Yahuwah and have the witness of Yahushua HaMashiach, his word declares that we are going to be hated by all men. All men, no exception. All men. So what's the purpose of this warning again? What's the purpose of this warning? I had to preface it with that, but what's the purpose of this warning? During late 2014, Zion, is when Yahuwah began to expose me to truth. Around November, December of 2014 is when Yahuwah began to expose me to truth, expose me to the way. And as some of you are, and as some of you are babes just coming into truth, as some of you are, I was full of zeal. Now, I'm still full of fire. But then I was full of zeal and fire. I was full of, as I mentioned earlier, it was a child's zeal. It was a child's zeal, but it was a false expectation. It was a false expectation that if the truth could only be presented to them, that they would eagerly receive this truth in the same way that my wife and I received this truth. But again, that's a childlike zeal, and that's not using hakma, because many are called, many are called, many, but few are chosen. Few are chosen. This road is narrow. It is a very narrow road, and so not all of his sheep, not all of his sheep. Nevertheless, I was full of zeal, and I wanted everybody to know the truth, everybody to know. And although I was just a babe in this truth, you know, I was on Facebook proclaiming this truth because I wanted everybody to know and to understand this truth with this false expectation that they would accept it with the same zeal and with the same gratitude that I had accepted it. Nevertheless, as he began to expose me to more and more truth, around 2015, he began to speak to my wife and I. And he began to speak to us with respect to the season that we're in, with respect to the change of the season, with respect to judgment already being pronounced. And many of you who are walking in truth, who are listening to this video, who have the Ruach HaKodesh, you know that even now that we are in that season of judgment. That judgment has indeed been pronounced. Just because their chaos is not occurring all around us does not mean that judgment has not been pronounced. We are indeed right now in the eye of the storm. And many of you already know this. You understand this. But he began to deposit things into our nafash about judgment and about this season that we're in. He began to speak things to us about this season. And around about the same time that he was speaking these things to us about the season that we're in and about judgment indeed being pronounced, I had come across a book called The Harbinger. It was written by a man named, he calls himself Rabbi Jonathan Kahn. He is a Messianic. Then I believed him. Now I believe he is false. But I believe this man, and he was, you know, talking about the Shemitah and the Shemitah year ending on 9/15 of 2015. And so in my mind, Zion, hear me, the operative word is my. In my mind, I began to put two and two together with the things that Yahuwah was depositing into my nafash, and then reading this man's thoughts about the Shemitah, and I assumed, and let me say this, I was sure in my flesh, I was still a babe, I was sure that Yaakov's distress was about to begin after the Shemitah. I was sure that the 7-year tribulation period was about to begin. I was sure, and no one could tell me otherwise. I was sure about this thing. I was sure about it, you know, based upon what Yahuwah had been depositing into my nafash and what this man was saying. Now, hindsight, I should have just rested in Yah and listened to Yah and not try to add what he was telling me in conjunction with what that man was saying, which obviously was not of Yah. Now, again, we are in the final season. If you are awake, you understand this. We are in the final season, and Yaakov's distress is even at our door, and it could happen at any day now, at any day. But then I was sure that it was going to happen after 9/15, 2015. And so being attached to my emotions and, you know, worrying about family and friends and all those who are in darkness and all those who are asleep, you know, I began to proclaim on Facebook, 9:15, after 9:15, I discern, I believe that the 7-year tribulation is going to happen, and war is coming, and famine, and the grid is going down, and all these things, because I was sure. If you're interested, I'm going to provide a link of that Facebook post in this video so that you can see it for yourself. This is full disclosure, Zion. I'm not hiding anything. I'm a man of integrity. I'm a man of Yah. I'm a man of integrity, so I'm not here to hide anything. I am presenting myself here and my story to perhaps steer someone else from being overzealous. But nevertheless, I put this on Facebook, and man, because I was sure. But mind you, it was done from the right place. I never called myself a Nabi. I didn't call myself a Nabi then. I'm not calling myself a Nabi now. I believe I am a proclaimer because Yah called me to proclaim in the year 2008. But we have different gifts. I am a proclaimer. He has not told me that I am a Nabi, and so I don't proclaim to be a Nabi, neither then, neither now. Nevertheless, so I posted this there on Facebook to warn everybody, because I wanted them to be warned. I wanted them to be awake. I wanted them to come out of Babylon and come into the truth. I wanted them to prepare, and my heart was torn. My heart was in it. My emotions was in it, and I wanted everybody to know. Well, as you know, the collapse didn't come 9/15/2015. It didn't come. The grid didn't go down. The war didn't start it. Albeit, if you're awake, you know and you understand that those things are still to come, and they're going to come in this season, in this very season that we're in. Nevertheless, they didn't come then. They didn't come then. As I reminded you before, we are under the microscope. We are under the microscope. Those who are our enemies, those who, and again, we're in direct opposition with the entire world. We are hated by all men, and they're looking at us under a microscope, trying to find any fault to attach to us, such to prove us as being false witnesses and false teachers, anything. And thus, we have to watch everything we speak and everything we say, everything we do. We have to be watchful of it. We have to be led by the Ruach in all things, in that post, I was led by my flesh and not the Ruach. I was led by my zeal, by my zealousness, by my overzealousness, and not the Ruach. But true to form, someone remembered that post. They remembered it. And yesterday evening, they tagged me in that post. They tagged me as to show me that, look, what you said was false, and whereby, since it was false, by extension, you too and what you represent is false. You too and what you represent is false. So I wanted to come on and give you this warning for those who are new to the truth, not to be overzealous, to follow the Ruach at all time, and to understand that we are under the microscope, that we are being watched, that they are holding on to every action, every word, and everything that we do, such as to prove us false. Remember, we are to be hated by all men. So be careful not to be overzealous. Watch what you do. Allow the Ruach to lead you. Understand that we are hated by all men. Understand that they are watching us. And if there is one false step, one misstep by us, they're going to bring it to mention. They're going to bring it to light, because they are anxious to prove what we stand for It's false. Why? Because we bear swords, Zion. We swing a big sword, and that sword cuts. It cuts. You cannot come against truth. You cannot disprove truth. And so when the sword of the truth is swung, it cuts. It cuts and it angers them, and they grind their teeth at us, and they scoff at us, and they look for any opportunity to prove us wrong, to prove us wrong. So again, I'm a man of integrity. I don't run from anything. I am just a hunk of dirt. I am perfect by no means. I am just a hunk of dirt that Yahuwah has deemed fit for use. Nothing more, nothing less. I'm just a hunk of dirt. I don't know everything. I don't know all things. Everything that I know, everything that I perceive to know comes from Yahuwah Ma'aluah. It comes from him. I'm just a dirt vessel. And so I don't know anything, but I am a man of integrity. I am a man of Yah, and I don't run from anything. I don't run from anything. In that post, I was overzealous. I misstepped, and I pray that it serves as a lesson for all of you who are new to truth and coming into this truth, not to be overzealous. I pray that this helps you. I pray that this has enlightened you. I pray that this has edified you. Yahuwah barak you and guard you. Yahuwah make his face shine upon you and show favor to you. Yahuwah lift up his face towards you and give you shalom. Thus you shall put my name on the banim of Yasha'al, and I myself shall barak them. Amen.